Ms. Barboa, are we ready? Okay. Okay, good evening. Good evening. It is Tuesday evening, September 10th, 2024. And I'd like to welcome you to TUSD Governing Board meeting. Can I get a roll call vote, please, Ms. Barboa?
Dr. Ravi?
Here.
Ms. Shaw?
Here.
Ms. Ekstrom?
Here.
Mr. Romero?
Here.
Ms. Luna Rose?
Here. All right. All 5 of us are here. Thank you very much. Just a couple of quick announcements. Tomorrow is Patriot Day, so remembrance of September 11th. It is also next Tuesday night, I do believe, is College and Career Night at the TCC. So if you're a parent like me whose child is just about to go to college, you may want to attend. It starts at 6:30. And then tonight, hopefully, let everybody out early enough to be able to maybe perhaps catch the last of the presidential debate. So, a lot of things on the docket this evening. Thank you. Okay, so land acknowledgement statement. And I do believe we have a student with us this evening. Okay. Jesus Martinez Borbin. He's a 5th grader at Van Buskirk Elementary. Jesus is 10 years old. He loves to eat churros with ice cream. He also loves to eat sushi. He says he is in the best school in the world. Jesus is also a member of his football team. Okay, Jesus, so whenever you are ready, Mr. Armstrong will get the mic going for you. Whenever you are ready to read the land acknowledgement statement, please do so.
On behalf of the governing board of the Tucson Unified School District, I, Jesus, acknowledge that the schools, buildings, and facilities of the Tucson Unified School District reside on the ancestral homeland of the Tohono O'odham Nation and the federally recognized tribal land of the Pascua Yaqui tribe.
Thank you very much. Nice round of applause for Jesus for doing such a great job. And I hope you have a good rest of the school year, Jesus. All right, so now we are on to the Pledge of Allegiance. Sofia Sarmiento Santos, she's also a 5th grader at dual language at Van Buskirk Elementary. She is also 10 years old. She likes cats and dogs, has one pet, a dog. She loves to read, and she is creative. She loves math at school. Sophia wants to be a doctor at the emergency room when she grows up. Sophia will be saying the pledge in 2 languages, both English and Spanish.
Please stand up for the pledge. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Juro mi libertad a la bandera de los Estados Unidos de América y a la república que representa una nación bajo Dios, indivisible, con libertad y justicia para todos.
Thank you so much, Sophia. And I do believe that's the first time we've had Spanish pledge, yes, since we've been on the board. Thank you, Sophia and Jesus. I'm sure there'll be other schools, though, that might want the title of the best school in the world in the district, but I'll take your word for it. Okay, thank you so much. All right, we are on to agenda adjustments. Dr. Trujillo.
President Luna Rose, members of the governing board, I'd like to go ahead and request that the board move action items 6.1 and 6.2 in that order to directly follow the call to the audience. We do have guests in attendance, and certainly want to move them up and get them out of here early.
All right. Any objections? Okay. Thank you, Dr. Trujillo. And don't turn off your mic. We're going to move to the superintendent's report.
Okay. Well, welcome to TUSD community, those of you here in attendance, those of you watching online. Welcome to our first governing board meeting here on September 10th, our first meeting in September here. Starting us off, let's talk about some amazing experiences I've had visiting our schools. Had a really, really amazing month of August. I got to see close to 15 campuses in that first month. It was exciting to see all of our staff members and all of our students excited and fresh for the new school year. I want to thank Principals Natalie Santin and Brenda Encinas for welcoming me there to their campuses. Had some wonderful visits out there at John B. Wright, and then also out there at Doolin. In Doolin, I saw some wonderful gate instruction. They have an award-winning gate program out there. If you're a parent watching this and you're looking for a gate option for middle school, Doolin is the place. Also had an opportunity to meet with our friends at Camp Cooper. I want to thank Director Colin Waite for a very, very informative partnership meeting sharing the goals for this year, the fundraising goals that are very ambitious for the Camp Cooper team. And the most exciting part of our partnership meeting is looking at the blueprints of what will be a newly renovated Camp Cooper that will feature dormitories for sleepovers for students, and of course solar-powered bathrooms that will also be finalized at some point this year. And really what these additions will do for Camp Cooper was it'll allow for evening field trips and sleepover field trips, which for years have been the ask for Camp Cooper and have been very limiting for our students in terms of only limiting them to daytime trips. So we're very excited about what the renovations are going to bring. Brought to fruition proudly by the voters who supported TUSD bond efforts, bond dollars at work out there at Camp Cooper, as well as all of the generous donors who support Camp Cooper through fundraising efforts. I want to thank Principal Emily Suisse and Principal Kathleen Chandler for some great visits out there at both Marshall and Dunham. I had a wonderful time meeting with students, and I want to highlight Dunham. They have taken the challenge of attendance very seriously with its attendance and tardy initiatives. They offer dance parties and popsicles for punctual Panthers so that they can routinely recognize students with perfect attendance. And I can't tell you how many students walked up to me during my visit to Dunham and introduced themselves and then said, "By the way, Mr. Superintendent, I have perfect attendance. I haven't missed a day of school." So it's great to see that sense of urgency around being in school every single day out there at Dunham. Last week, I had the privilege of sitting down with several teachers and students out at Sam Hughes Elementary, and want to certainly congratulate Principal Catherine Bolaski for a wonderful opening of school. And to celebrate her return, Ms. Bolaski joins the ranks of new parents as she's welcomed some new children into the world and is now back with the Sam Hughes community. So I want to congratulate her for those newest additions to her family. And had a wonderful time recognizing a couple of outstanding employees and students. Now, I want to start with a fifth grade student who demonstrated throughout the first couple of months of school really a commitment to perseverance, excellence in the classroom, leadership around the campus. She's able to think about areas in her learning journey that she wants to improve. She set some ambitious goals for this year. One of them is having perfect attendance and getting A's in all of her classes. So I was able to recognize Olivia Oregelin, fifth grader, for her ambitious goals this year. And on the staff side of things, I got an opportunity to recognize one of our most dedicated employees, Ms. Karen May. In her role as MTSS facilitator, Ms. May demonstrates servant leadership each and every day in her commitment to students. She's the first to offer support to her colleagues when they're starting to struggle a little bit with students in the classroom, and the first to offer support to those struggling students in terms of getting them the resources and the assistance that they need. She's an advocate for students and staff and has dedicated herself to a success-driven culture at Sam Hughes. So both Miss May and our student Olivia Regelin, I had the honor of presenting them with some University of Arizona football tickets. So they got to enjoy some University of Arizona football. Last Friday, I had opportunity to take the beautiful drive out there to the Southwest Family Resource Center and just had a wonderful time out there meeting the great staff dedicated to bringing in amazing resources to our students and families. Everybody that you see up there in the picture that's not myself or Director Lacey Grijalva and our hardworking coordinator out there, that these are volunteers, and they come in on their own time. Don't expect any kind of compensation. It's a labor of love. And the way that they organize both the clothing bank and the food bank is a testament to that commitment. So I had an opportunity to thank them personally for all of the commitment that they bring to the Family Resource Center. Got to learn all about the different programs, how DAPE is off to a great start this year. There's a DAPE location out there at Southwest Center. And a little known program known as Core Plus is an option for 6th grade students that are struggling on their home campuses. They can come and get smaller, more personalized instruction at the Southwest Center. So we're going to have to highlight that program a little bit more. And then looking forward tonight, on tonight's agenda, we're going to hear about our school website design. That'll be coming up a little bit later in the agenda, and a status of our HVAC. Unfortunately, we are not out of the cooling season. We are into September, and we're still dealing with close to 110-degree temperatures. So the work on cooling our campuses continues. And I want to close out the superintendent's report by recognizing an upcoming Staff Appreciation Day, National Information Technology Professionals Day on September 17th. We'll take an opportunity to recognize the critical role that information technology professionals play in managing and maintaining the essential systems and applications powering our students in classrooms across the district every single day, and powering the teachers that bring school to life for our children and young people. So join us this IT Pro Day in honoring and recognizing our amazing IT pros across the Tucson Unified School District. President Luna Rose, members of the governing board, that concludes the superintendent's report for this evening.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Trujillo. All right, we are on to call to the audience. We do have Myrna up front if you need translation services. And I will hand it over to Clerk Ekstrom.
Thank you. Public participation at board meetings. Members of the public may speak during the call to the audience. The governing board clerk shall be responsible for recognizing speakers and for maintaining order where it may be appropriate. Those who speak in person or want to have their comments read shall email or call the board office or complete a request to address the board form before the meeting. Speakers who have not completed a request form are not permitted to address the board. The speaker must state their full name and topic prior to addressing the board. Speakers are encouraged to be brief with a maximum time of 3 minutes. While more than one speaker may speak together in the time allowed, speakers are reminded that they are not allowed to speak more than once, and they may not transfer or delegate their time to others. If there are documents for the board, please give them to the board office staff, and they will ensure each board member receives a copy. Those attending the meeting and or speaking before the board shall observe rules of good conduct. Speakers shall also refrain from inappropriate or slanderous remarks. And because TUSD serves students from preschool through high school, speakers should be aware that there may be children present and listening. At the end of the call to the audience, the governing board president will ask if any board member wishes to respond to a criticism, wish to ask staff to review a matter, or wish that a matter be put on a future agenda. No more than 2 members may address each topic. Contents of this card are public information. Our first speaker is Lillian Fox.
Board, Attorney Ross, and staff. My name's Lillian Fox. Last meeting, I complained that the budget book wasn't available and that you had approved the budget without seeing the budget book, which really is the budget. And I complained the next day at the audit committee, and the CFO was there, and he said it would be available that weekend. It wasn't available that weekend, but after Labor Day, there was a listing on the website. But then when you click on the listing on the website, the budget book's not there. Nothing's there. You have to go through and check a bunch of boxes to say you want a copy of the budget book. I did that. I'm still waiting. I don't have a copy of the budget. And Sadie Shaw asked for a copy of the budget, regardless of whether it was finished or not. I don't believe she got it either. So I think that's a problem. Now, so since I didn't have this year's budget, I'll tell you about last year's budget. In last year's budget, 33 of your schools got $0 for their libraries, nada. 34 got $40. I think that's for glue and scotch tape or something. 3 got less than $1,000, less than $200. So that's 70 schools who virtually got nothing for their libraries, I would say. Now, on the other hand, for years and years, Superintendent Trujillo, he's been here 7 years, has gotten $1,000 a year to buy books and media for himself. I think that's wrong. With what he makes, he should buy his own books, and at least let's give that $1,000 to some school. I gave you this thing. One of the reasons we're so poor in language arts is because we don't have librarians except at the high school level, and we're not funding the libraries. TUSD is this yellow thing all across the bottom. We're at the bottom at everything except, or almost the bottom at everything, except for the amount of money we get per student. We get more money per student than any of the other local school districts do. We have always gotten more money. So our problem isn't lack of money, it's maybe where the money's being spent. It's easy to blame our minority kids. We're a minority school district, we just can't do any better. No, Tucson is a Hispanic city. Every local school district has a high percentage of Hispanic kids, and they have other people who are minorities. If you look at the column where it says Hispanic students, you can see the all-white districts, or the districts that people think are all white. They're not all white. They have huge portions of Mexican-American students, and they perform well. Those districts would not be A-rated districts if their minority kids were underperforming. They are not underperforming. We need to do better. The other excuse is, well, we got a lot of poverty. No. Flowing Wells, if you look at the first column, Flowing Wells has a much higher percentage of poverty than we do, and they outperform us every day of the week.
Thank you. Your time has
That's it.
expired.
Thank you.
Next is Gustavo Vieira. I'm sorry if I butchered your name.
It's Vieira, but that's okay, don't worry.
Vieira.
I'm here because as an expert in bilingual education and what this lady was speaking about in terms of children having access to libraries, that's essential. I was teaching in Los Angeles, in the area of Los Angeles for many, many years. I wrote a PhD in Germany and in German in terms of initial reading and writing for German-speaking kids in Germany. And I would like to propose, and I did send a proposal to Dr. Trujillo, a multilingual program beginning at the preschool level, meaning at the age of 3 or 4 if possible. Because at that age is when the kid's brain is receptive to anything, especially second language acquisition and music education, you name it. That's where we can create the genius. Mozart is not possible if we start at the age of 6 or 7. Imagine if the father of Mozart had started teaching little Mozart at the age of 7, we wouldn't have a Mozart, period. Sor Juan Inés de la Cruz in Mexico, Marie Curie, you name it. We need to start as early as possible and in context of bilingual or trilingual education. What I'm proposing to Dr. Trujillo is basically taking literacy in the native language, meaning for English-speaking kids, becoming highly proficient in English as the native language, and then as a foundation towards second and third language acquisition. I don't necessarily agree with the dual language program in which kids, the day is divided into 2 equal languages. In my opinion, it's best to take music and the arts as the foundation, as the medium of learning and storytelling, obviously with the classics, children's classical stories in the native language, make it a very, very strong program in the native language, and slowly transition the kids into second and even third language acquisition, but obviously into second language acquisition. So by the time that they're 10, 11, and 12, they have mastered Spanish or English as a second language at an international level. Now, International School of Tucson here, they have an excellent immersion program. I spoke with the parents. They're happy with them. Why couldn't we be able to compete against the international school here in Tucson? We can, but we need to start realistically and with a very sound and holistic approach to literacy in the native language as a foundation to the second and third language. And I hope that Dr. Trujillo and the board would be able to read my proposal. I will have it available to every member of the board and to anybody who's interested. Thank you very much, and God bless everybody.
Thank you. Pilar Costa-Reese.
My name is Pilar Acosta Ruiz. Looks like I made it here in the nick of time. I just wanted to say a couple things. I think it's really important when people take time out of their busy lives to show up here. So it would be really great if board members take the messages that they hear to the committees that they sit on. One of the most important committees is the Bond Oversight Committee, and that meeting needs to be accessible to the public. It needs to be at night, and if people can't be on that committee at night, then they shouldn't be on that committee. I don't know, because most people work at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. But, and I also wanted to talk about how, there was another incident, whether it was real or not, at Catalina High. Like, safety needs to be number one. We really need to stop focusing on anything right now but safety and education. Those should be the top two priorities. And I hope that you all do a moment of silence for 9/11. We lost almost 3,000 people in this country, and last year it wasn't done. This year it hasn't been done, and I want to publicly say thank you to all the first responders as well as the safety staff at TUSD. But hopefully tonight you will make a moment of silence for them. Thank you.
Next is Bets Putnam Hidalgo that I'm going to read, and this is regarding the internal audit. Dear Dr. Trujillo and Governing Board, first of all, thank you for posting the internal audits on your webpage, albeit at the last possible moment before this meeting. Not a single audit report has been posted until a flurry of requests were made about the absence of posted reports for more than 8 months. I have not had time to read them, but despite the outrageous delay in posting the audits and the need for public pushback to do so, there's now some level of public accountability. They are now public documents, like they should be. After all, we pay for them, so we should be able to see them. I do have to say that my first question was, I wonder if this is the complete report that has been publicized or not. Now, that may sound overly suspicious, but frankly, after the performance at the end of the last board meeting, what else could I be thinking? The district's response to audits that have turned up damning information was to call for an audit of the auditor, instead of looking carefully at recommendations for improvement and trying to implement them. Honestly, I don't want to name names, but the superintendent's attempt to smear the auditor was unconscionable. In Spanish, we would call that descargado, retaliation. I fully remember that when this same person took the job of superintendent way back when, he specifically pledged to stop the culture of retaliation in TUSD. While I appreciate that this board is far more constructive than the board that was sitting when he made that pledge, I am sorry that they honored his request at all, even with the limitations they placed on the process of auditing the auditor. As we all know, the district has urgent financial issues. If the money spent on this process could help pay for one more social worker, nurse, or accredited librarian, spending it on auditing the auditor because you don't like what the audit said is a gross misuse of funds. And that concludes the call to the audience.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Ekstrom. Board members, any discussion? Michelle?
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. Sorry I was late. I was online, but my daughter had a volleyball game, so I couldn't miss that. And I appreciate everyone who came to speak at tonight's call to the audience. Thank you to Mr. Gustavo for speaking on literacy. Same to Lillian. And in regards to Bets Putnam Hidalgo's comment about the audits being posted, it looks like 3 of them have been posted. that have been done so far. We are missing 3 more audits that were done this year, and so I'd like to ask staff once again to post all of the audits that we have completed this year so the public can review them. Thank you.
Mr. Romero?
And Ms. Luna Rose, you had mentioned at kind of the beginning regarding Patriot Day, and I think that's something from the call to the audience, because I think everybody that was alive during that day has their certain memory, and I think it would be a good idea if we just do a pause of a little silence.
Okay, I'd be happy to do 30 seconds for a moment of silence. Dr. Trujillo?
Before we do a moment of silence, just a small note. Descarado means shameless, so the correct meaning of the word descarado is shameless. It's not retaliation. I was a Spanish teacher in a former life. Just want to make sure that the language is used correctly. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Trujillo. Okay. Jean, can we put up for 30 seconds? Moment of silence, please. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. Anything else, board members? Dr. Trujillo, anything else to add? Okay. All right. We are on to 6.1, Proclamation, a Legacy of Excellence Awareness Week in Tucson Unified School District, September 22nd through the 26th. Dr. Trujillo.
Yes, even though one of the school year's most highly anticipated events is still months away in the spring, we always like to honor the Legacy of Excellence Awareness Week early in the fall, last week of September. Here joining us, I want to welcome Natalie Clark and Jeff Sawyer, our chairs for the Legacy of Excellence Committee, here with a proclamation for us to appropriately recognize and honor Legacy of Excellence Awareness Week coming up a little bit later on this month. Ms. Clark, Mr. Sawyer. Yeah, you can go ahead, free to address the board.
Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to say the Legacy of Excellence started. Now we're going into our 15th year. We've given away over $450,000 during that period of time. And again, that's a testament not only to this wonderful committee that stands behind me, but also to our superintendent, our governing board, who have supported a Legacy of Excellence throughout the year. And I'm just going to go through this pretty quickly. It says a Legacy of Excellence Awareness Week, whereas every student is entitled to a high quality education, regardless of race, gender, zip code, ability, socioeconomic status, and/or language spoken at home. And whereas the core values of diversity, equity, excellence, integrity, innovation, and a caring community drive our commitment to eliminating the opportunity gap for students. And whereas the Tucson Unified School District takes pride in recognizing September 22nd, 2024 through September 28th, 2024 as a Legacy of Excellence Awareness Week, celebrating our partnerships while acknowledging and working to create access to post-secondary opportunities for TUSD underrepresented students. And whereas a Legacy of Excellence Awareness Week is a celebration of equity in Tucson and provides an opportunity to highlight our education equity priorities, as well as the incredible work happening in our schools across the city of Tucson. And whereas educational equity, diversity, and inclusiveness will only be achieved through the collaborative work of state and local policymakers and the dedication of local school district superintendents, school administrators, teachers, support staff, and community groups. Now, therefore, the governing board of the Tucson Unified School District does hereby proclaim September 22nd through September 28th a Legacy of Excellence Awareness Week. So we have a lot of things that are going to be happening during that time, and we're going to be sending those things out. So we're going to be doing a lot of things with our counseling departments and everything, and alerting students of what's happening with the Legacy of Excellence and how they can go about applying and everything. And again, we just really are very thrilled.
Yes. Thank you so very much for the opportunity to have and recognize the Legacy of Excellence Awareness Week. We have for the week, we start off with a celebration of worship, and then we go on to actually go into working with students, which is our priority, and preparing them for what will come. Last year, we awarded $70,000 in scholarships to 14 amazing TUSD seniors, and they're all in college. And we're so very happy to have awarded that. As you can see on the screen, those are some of the activities. We're going to do counseling. And the reason we moved this week to the end of September is because FAFSA, we found out yesterday, it moved again to December, but we thought it was October 1st. And so, but we want to be closer to the time frame so it's on the minds of the students in order of applying for the scholarship. So we want to thank you in advance, and our committee members are here to say thank you so very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think I would like to say, I'll board members any comment and questions, but just want to say, I think on behalf of the board, this is such a wonderful, it's just a wonderful thing that you all do and have been doing for a long time, and so impressive, the coming to the Legacy of Excellence. It's really a flagship for the district, and you should all be very proud of the work you do, and we have some wonderful young students across the district that get highlighted, so thank you so very much. Board members, Ms. Shaw.
Thank you. And thank you, Ms. Clark, Mr. Sawyer, and committee members for all your work for the Legacy of Excellence. I know I look forward to it every year, as does my daughter, as does so many people in our community. And I know for sure that our students, whether they're in elementary, middle, or high school, are using it as a goal to work that much harder so that they can receive this Legacy of Excellence scholarship. So I'm so happy that we have an awareness week so more people can learn about this opportunity. And with that, I would like to move the item.
I'll second.
All right. Moved by Ms. Shaw, seconded by Dr. Shaw. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. The ayes have it. Thank you so much, and we look forward to the next one coming up soon. Thank you. All right. We are on to 6.2, approval of changes to the Alternative Education Advisory Committee charter. Dr. Trujillo.
So I'd like to welcome the chair of the Alternative Education Committee, Melissa Molina Garcia is here. Also going to be working with us on the presentation of this item is Governing Board Member Sadie Shaw, the board's liaison to the committee, who will be walking through the board the committee's approved changes to its charter. Ms. Molina Garcia.
Hello. Good evening. So first of all, I am the proud chairperson of the Alternative Education Committee. We have a great committee, a great team that's striving to make the great changes we're doing along with the alternative education programs for all the students in the Tucson Unified School District. Dr. Shaw, or Ms. Shady Shaw, would you like to go over the mission, or do you want me to go over the mission? It's up to you.
You can go ahead and go over the mission.
Okay.
You've done such a good job, and I appreciate all your work on the committee and all the committee members' work in fine-tuning this charter. So if you'd like to go over it, that's fine.
The governing board of the Tucson Unified School District established an alternative education committee. The purpose of the AEAC is to support the board and district leadership and oversight of the district's alternative pathways to success, including Tucson Unified Virtual Academy, GoTuba, Catalina Online Learning Academy, which was COLE, District Alternative Education Programs, DAPE, Teenage Parent High School, Project More, Core Plus, and the district's credit recovery programs. As a proud high school principal at Tuva, we have done amazing things with our students that needed a different format of learning. We believe that this change is going to encompass all the great strides we've made in making everything more inclusive for all our kids that are considered at risk here in TUSD.
Ms. Shaw.
Thank you. And yeah, so the charter, besides the redlined language that you see before you, is very similar to what the governing board approved of. And one of the main things that the committee was deciding upon is went back and forth a bit to whether or not we were going to remove coal from the charter language, but because it has such a long history in our district, we decided to keep it kind of as a like a historical reference, since we will be looking at the data from coal to inform our other alternative programs.
Yes, and we definitely want to make the mission more inclusive because there are so many programs out there. A lot of the TUSD community is unaware of the different options that our students have. So we really want to make it clear that look at everything we have to offer. There's something to fit everyone out there. And so for your consideration, we would appreciate it if you would approve this revised charter.
Thank
Move
you.
the item.
You'll move
second.
by- Okay, so moved by Ms. Shaw, seconded by Dr. Shaw. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it. Thank you so much for your work on
thank
this, you and Ms. Shaw.
Okay, thank you.
Look forward to more reports as time comes.
Okay,
Keep
thanks
us
very much.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
abreast of everything. Thank you. All right, moving right along. Consent agenda. Approval of consent agenda items 5.3 to 5.2 through 5.9. Dr. Trujillo.
Rose, members of the governing board, I'd like to recommend the governing board's consideration of approval consent agenda items as arranged 5.2 to 5.9.
Board members?
I'll move consent.
Okay. I will second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it. Thank you very much. Okay, we are on to study action items. Adoption, 7.1, adoption of superintendent's goals, school years 22 through 23 through 24-25.
Yes, President Luna Rose, as a one of the major yearly functions of the board is to establish performance goals for the superintendent for the portion of the compensation that is allocated towards performance-based pay. And here to walk us through the draft will be our general counsel, Mr. Ross.
Well, good evening, board members. I guess just from Dr. Trujillo can talk about the details of some of these proposed changes, but basically what the intent here is to have a set of enduring goals that build on the previous year's growth or maintenance of a particular item in the goals, so that the board can approve one set and then measure them annually based on data that the superintendent provides for it. So the intent here is to have goals that will be measured, and remember this is just for the performance pay element that's required by statute for any superintendent's contract. So the superintendent's contract has an annual amount of up to $5,000 for performance pay, and these goals would be measured and rated by the governing board members, and then the board would, once they present those scores on that, the board would adopt a performance pay award for the superintendent for the school years. Again, this is for school years 22, 23 through 24, 25. And once the board approves these goals, then we'll have another meeting, a public meeting, where the board will measure them and award it. And I'll give it to Dr. Trujillo to talk about any specifics he wants to highlight here.
The biggest proposed changes are in goal number 2, the increase of student academic achievement, and setting a firm target of 5% on a yearly basis of improving academic achievement in the district in both English language arts and math by minimizing by 5% or reducing the total amount of students in all tested grade levels that are minimally proficient, forces the rest of the system to improve by 5%. That's the spirit of those goals. Proficiency, yes, is always the target, but the school improvement formula and the letter grade system, not created by TUSD, not created by any individual school district, but of course adopted by the Board of Ed, gives a majority of the weighting to a concept of student growth. How a school district or an individual school improves individual student performance across levels of proficiency over time in numeracy and math, which is why it's not just a straight proficiency measurement. It's the percentage of students that in a single year go from minimally proficient to partially proficient, or from partially proficient to now passing the test at proficient, and then from proficient to exceeds. So really the school letter grade formula is looking at those 4 levels of performance and assessing the extent to which an entire system can move students in those categories. We understand the public likes to dial in on proficiency, and proficiency certainly is a part of the conversation and a part of the formula with letter grades, but so is growth, and districts get credit for growth. Growth is learning. That is the extent to which our hardworking teachers are moving students across ability levels and proficiency levels across time. Why is that important for TUSD? TUSD is a majority off-grade level student body. So the majority of our student body, the majority of our 39,000 students are coming in working off grade level to various degrees in both ELA, English Language Arts and Math, in the tested grade levels, especially 3 through 8th. And so the growth system was created and adopted by the Board of Ed with that in mind as a major characteristic, not just of TUSD, but in school districts around the state of Arizona. So there's a little bit more why those goals are written in that particular way and really dialing in on the 5%. Just in some of the conversations that we've had here publicly, talking about the bar for proficiency or the bar for academic improvement maybe being a little bit too low at 2%, 3%, we opted for the 5%, in terms of being a little bit more aggressive in that target. We also are talking about enrollment. Enrollment is obviously the big issue of the day. And understanding that we would love to jump out there and to have a more aggressive goal with enrollment, but we also understand that more structural things need to be done in order to really foster that kind of growth, which will take an investment on the part of the board looking deeply at the budget. And those are areas that are not necessarily always in the superintendent's purview. It's in your purview. So we wanted to be cautious here in terms of what that goal looks like. Now, obviously, promotion, marketing, getting out there and really having a highly effective promotional campaign for our schools and programs, absolutely, that is within our purview. The systems that we have in place to follow up with students that have left the district to try to bring them back, the way that we market to districts that are currently going to charters and private schools, absolutely. That is something that the administration, we hold ourselves obviously accountable for that, and we'll certainly pursue that. So that's why we set those targets there with enrollment and attendance. But the bigger, more structural work in terms of looking at the district as a whole and making new investments in area of the district that tend to be growing, that have higher levels of K-12 students out there, that's a big area that's in the governing board's purview. When we also look at the classroom dollar report, TUSD has been consistent in the last 7 years of dramatically increasing the amount of dollars that we spend in the classroom, decreasing the amount of dollars that we spend on administration. According to the Auditor General's report, not just my words, TUSD has the lowest administrative spending percentage in all of Pima County. That's taken some work over a number of years to get there, and it's also a credit to the governing board. We also feature 70%, 69.5%, 70% over the last 4 years in per pupil spending, which is a combination of the money in your budget that you allocate towards inside the classroom costs, like teacher salaries, TA costs, professional development costs directly for your teaching staff, as well as student support services. Your counselors, your social workers, your on the ground inside of school staff facilitating student support services. So around 70% of your budget is dedicated to that effort. We always want to be doing more, and so we think that that's still a very, very applicable goal for us to always be coming to the board with ways to spend more in the classroom, more on student support services, and less on administration. Teacher vacancy reduction, we've shown some great improvement over the years, but there's always more work to be done. The teacher vacancy challenge has now evolved into not just a teacher vacancy issue at large like it used to be. Now it's becoming a teacher specialty shortage issue. Hard to find ex-ed teachers, teachers specialized in special education, hard to find reading specialists, hard to find math teachers, hard to find science teachers. It's becoming more specialized by content and category of specialization, which makes it harder. So we've got to be more innovative and more creative, knowing that for every available exceptional education teacher, especially those that specialize in self-contained programs, working in autism programs, working with ED students, working in medically fragile programs, that for every one applicant that we have, pretty much every school district in Southern Arizona is probably chasing them and making an offer. So we've got to find a way to be more innovative and creative there. Teacher Experience Index, the state does give us dollars back in our budget based off of the percentage of teachers that we have that qualify for Teacher Experience Index funding. So basically, we bring in teachers that have over 5 years, 7 years, and even 10 years. It benefits us. It strengthens our Teacher Experience Index level and increases the amount of dollars that we get back. It's a great incentive for us to get out there and recruit highly qualified teachers that are experienced in the classroom to bring them into TUSD. So that's a little bit more on the 5 proposed goals. As you can see here in the draft, the biggest work was overhauling the increased student ACT achievement goal. We updated those to reflect a more aggressive 5% increase target on a yearly basis for proficiency levels.
Excuse me. Thank you, Dr. Trujillo. Board members, questions? Ms. Shaw.
Thank you. Well, I'm happy that the increase went to 5% for the student academic achievement. Though I would like to have the board consider, like, I know we're focusing on mainly like grades 3 to 8, and like with that, it'll kind of improve like the whole district's score is what I heard. But I think that really we should like focus on 5% increase across the board, grades K through 12, because, you know, we're in a state of crisis in our district with our proficiency levels. And I think, well, I worry that if we make this with grades 3 to 8, that we'll hyper-focus on those students and not really provide that individualized one-on-one attention to the students who may need it in grades that aren't listed here.
ACT, grade 11's in there.
Well, yeah, but still, what about the other ones? Because, yeah, every grade needs help, as Dr. Trujillo said. So I'd like you all to consider that as a change to this. Also, enrollment. Can we scroll up to enrollment, Jean? I'm really not comfortable just wanting to maintain the status quo or like not decrease it by 2%. I think, you know, our budget is dependent on student enrollment. And to just, not even have a goal of even a slight increase is shows that we're really not gonna focus on enrollment. And so I would like to change that to 5% increase. I think we have a lot of great programs in our district that families would love to put their students in if they knew about it. I think we can do better at getting the word out. And also we could, do things that other public schools aren't doing to maybe increase our enrollment, like having our district be uniforms for like every school. I think that might be something that parents might look into and put their child in our district, or, free sports and clubs and competitive programs. I think if we're, we're strategic, we can get an increase in our enrollment.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Shaw. Ms. Romero.
So real quick, Rob Ross, does this change on a yearly basis if we decide to revisit this as a board?
Mr. Romero, this is structured so that it could be used next year as well, but the board can change these every year if it wants to. But the purpose here was to basically have something in place. If the board didn't want to change it, you're ready to go next year. But yes, this is something that that you can revisit annually with the superintendent and modify it.
Great. And Sadie, you brought up something good, with our enrollment and our attendance. With that negative number versus having a zero number or a plus number, the thing that I have with that is looking at our history, we've kind of decreased, and even hearing, with Ricky Hernandez, if we had a zero, that would be good, as far as we're not losing any students to that. I think maybe at least something in a percentage to zero with revisiting this back later on, because I think we should want to do this in a positive way. If we look like we can have up to 2% decrease, it doesn't, look like we're doing a good job for doing that. And I understand Dr. Trujillo talking about us as a board. We need to give him the tools also to succeed, to get these things. And if it is, looking at other schools in different areas that are thriving in our community, we as a board are going to have to look at giving him those tools to succeed. But I think, if nothing else, I would want it to be steady, because being at steady is a zero is a step at least in the right direction.
I do believe Dr. Trujillo had his hand up.
I would just say I would support a break even. I would support a zero or coming in, or a modest increase. I think that's reasonable.
Dr. Shaw.
Thank you, President Luna Rose. I have a couple of edits I'd like to propose. One of them was on 1A, making that zero, because it says two different things on there. So I would make that a zero and maintain the same level of enrollment in 1A. In 2C, I think we're getting a lot of our district schools at A and B, and I think the 5% might not be necessarily appropriate each year. So I would add on at the end, or somewhere in here, by increasing by 5%, or having 2/3 of our schools having A or B rated. So I would make that change for 2C. On 2D and E, I have a question. Why is it only the A and B schools that we're trying to exceed or increase the exceeds level by, as opposed to all of our schools? And should we change that to all of our schools as opposed to just the schools that are measured A and B?
I think the spirit of that goal was to make sure that our A and B schools sort of weren't resting on their laurels and, kind of like, okay, we're an A, we're a B, we have this. No, drive towards exceeds. If you have a healthy percentage of proficient kids, you can't just be stagnant. You need to push a percentage. So it's kind of our attempt to kind of hold ourselves accountable. But yeah, I'm certainly open to an overall exceeds level, within reason, for our testing population. But that was the spirit of those goals.
That makes sense. And then my question on 5, so the 5 is looking at teacher experience index, but then 5A and 5B are looking at survey responses. So I'm confused if that there was a typo or how that's all set up. Mr. Ross looks like he wants to respond to that.
Yeah, that is a formatting issue. So that should be its own goal, the increasing the teacher experience index, and then staff safety really goes with the goals below that.
So what I propose to
that's a
do on
format.
that one is probably combine 4 and 5 is make all of our teacher measures in 4 and 5 and have 4 criteria that are each 25% instead of having 5 that are 20%. So the proposed changes I would make would be the 1A that other people have mentioned to make it a maintain level, 2C to also have the caveat of increase by 5% or maintain at 2/3 of our schools being A and B. And I'm okay with the 2D and 2E explanation that Dr. Trujillo gave, and then I would combine 4 and 5 with having, it looks like 5 bullet points as opposed to the way it's formatted, and then have each of the 4 criteria then from 1 through 4, if 4 and 5 are combined, being at 25% weighted.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Shaw. I can agree with that. I wanted to go back to Ms. Shaw's point about the 3rd grade. So I'm assuming third through 8th was chosen because of the move on when reading.
So the measures for academic achievement by the Board of Education, that go into the school letter grade formula, are the Arizona Academic Skills Assessment for grades 3 through 8, and then the ACT, which is administered in grade 11. So your high school metric is captured at grade 11, and the extent to which you're getting your 9th and your 10th graders ready is captured in the ACT. There is no formal state assessment for 9th and 10th with the spirit that you're capturing at 11th. We are responsible for move on when reading, which means that all of our 2nd graders are able to read at a 2nd grade level before moving into 3rd. That's measured by DIBELS, which is sort of a statewide diagnostic that's used in school districts. And of course, we have the normal mechanisms, the summer school and the interventions to make sure that our kids are arriving in 3rd grade on target.
Okay. So I'm wondering if with the DIBELS, gosh, I haven't talked about DIBELS in a long time. Sorry, guys, I have a high school kid. Is there some, could we add something in there in 2A about, a percentage of 2nd graders, or making sure that, where the district is in terms of all the 2nd graders taking that DIBELS test? Is that at least have some wording in there? So
yeah, we can add a goal there about DIBELS, which will capture the early literacy efforts.
Okay. Ms. Shaw.
Thank you for asking for that, Ms. Luna Rose. I think it's a good start, but all of these bullets in number 2, there's not really one that focuses on each school, each student. And I know, there's a test for grades 3 through 8 and 11th grade, but we have these subscriptions that can definitely test students' proficiency level, and we pay a lot for them. And so I feel like we should utilize those. Correct me if I'm wrong, I believe we have several that can measure all of these subjects, ELA, math, reading. And so I think we should also add something that will see if we can increase grades K through 12 in all those areas, at least by for those who are minimally proficient to the next level. Because if we don't focus on them, we're just not going to focus on them. And then as far as not even having a goal to increase enrollment, I think that's a huge mistake. I'm glad that we're at 0% now, but 20 years ago, we were at 60,000 students, and now we're at 40,000. And depending on how many students come to class, we do dip down below 40. And so where are we going to be in the next 20 years? 20,000? I think we should really have a hyper-focused goal to find a way to increase enrollment. And I would like our superintendent to work on that and not just maintain the 0. And so I'd like to make a motion to increase number 1, strike out maintain, and in that place put increase enrollment by 3%.
Mr. Romero.
And I appreciate, going for these big goals, shooting, for the stars and landing on the moon. I think just realistically, kind of where we've been going, and I don't think that we have the right tools right now to increase our enrollment. If we did, I'm thinking we wouldn't have been decreasing all these years. I don't want to set a goal that we're going to fail at by putting it up too high. That's my fear. And that's why I'd mentioned with Ross is, can we revisit this next year? So let's take that one, Dr. Haley hits that 0. The next year, let's change that. Now we can up it up to something that's more realistic. That's for me is the reason why I'm happy with the 0. I just think by putting it at 3, it's going to make it unrealistic.
Okay, well,
That's just-
respectfully, I disagree. I think, our communications department has a decent budget that they can work with. I think across the district, we have fabulous programs that can be highlighted and pushed, and so I'm not comfortable with the 0%.
Okay. I do believe the motion dies for lack of a second. Dr. Shaw.
All right, thank you, President Malone. So I'll move the item as presented with the changes being to 1A being at maintain without the negative 2% change, with 2A and B having early childhood put in there where there's dibbles or some other measurement. 2C having the 5% or maintain at 2/3 A and B schools, and then combining 4 and 5 into one metric with all of them being 25%.
Okay.
You get all that, Yolanda? Okay. Okay.
All right. And I will second. Okay. Moved by Dr. Shaw with all the changes that Ms. Borboa will get, and seconded by myself. May I get a roll call vote, please?
Dr. Raleigh?
Yes.
Ms. Shaw?
No.
Ms. Ekstrom?
Yes.
Mr. Romero?
Yes.
Ms. Luna Rose?
Yes. Okay, item passes 4-1. Thank you so much for the discussion, colleagues. Okay, we are on to 8.1, TUSD school website redesign update. Dr. Trujillo.
Yes, President Luna Rose and members of the board, we've been working hard to overhaul the district's website. I think everybody is very familiar with the changes we made to our main page and trying to make it a little bit more engaging, add more content. Now we've moved on to the school websites in response to a lot of the feedback that you as governing board members have provided to us about the stagnancy of the older websites. And so I want to bring the board and the public up to speed on the work that we've been doing to overhaul our school website. So I'd like to welcome Carla Escamilla to walk us through.
Good evening, board. Good evening, Dr. Trujillo and staff. I'm happy to do this update on our new school website designs. Working really hard in the last few weeks, and we have gone pretty good strides on what we envision and are accomplishing. I will go through the goals that we set, what we wanted these websites to be, what the design components are, what are the responsibilities for the school and the responsibilities for the Media and Communications Department, what is the progress so far, what are our next steps, and I'm going to go through a quick demonstration so you can see all that we have accomplished so far. So when we sat down and talked about redesigning, we sat down with Dr. Trujillo, taking in consideration every comment, suggestion that we have heard from the board, from community, from parents, and from other staff in the district. So we wanted to make sure that it wasn't too always we heard it's too wordy. We need to get rid of so much words and actually put some good content on our website. So we went with the graphic center design. This graphic center design includes videos, includes stories, includes highlights, includes a lot of pictures, and it's very pleasing to look at. We wanted to focus on good news going forward, constantly updating them, and trying to figure out how we're going to be able to do this, having 88 schools in our district, and we created a plan. It's a simpler main menu, easy access, easy to families to find what they're looking for, which we have found that since the new design started, engagement has increased between 20 to 25%. And also the time that people are spending on the website is less, which we attribute to easy finding the information that they need. We consolidated related pages, so now we don't have like 10 other pages for just Title I, et cetera. So I'm going to go through that as well. And it's consistent with other Arizona national school districts. We did a lot of research. We found what is the best fit for us. We saw what other schools are doing and why is it effective for them and how can we implement it for Tucson Unified. And every single school has the same design. Obviously with the colors of the schools, with their logos, and personalized as much as programs, etc. The design components is a wide frame video, like you see when you open the TUSD page. Every single school will have that. Who we are, a welcome from the principal, the focus, mission, and important highlights of each school. What we offer is one of the main focus of the new pages. A sliding photo highlight, which is like the background that you would see as you scroll through the website. District and school news posts. So not just the district, which that's really easy for us to do, but now we want to do school, and we're automating that to make sure that we have school news and district news as well. Welcome video from every single principal and stories that will be updated constantly. And spotlight individuals. Individuals, we're talking about parents that get involved, volunteers, teachers, staff, students, anybody that makes a difference in the school. We want to be highlighting those individuals and constantly be changing and highlighting different people in each school. The responsibility, so it's divided into the communications department and the school. So we already did our team already did all the digital design. Every single school is already designed. It just needs the content. So they created automating content production, and it's leveraging information from existing systems and platforms such as iVision, Synergy, School ERP, Outlook, Tandem, Calendar, and Forms. What this means is once is updated, everything's updated at the same time. We don't have to go school by school. We don't have to go site by site. For example, the calendar is an amazing tool because the principals share it with us, and as they add something to the calendar in their Outlook, it goes straight to the website when it's talking about events and public important dates. And then the Media Day. What is Media Day? We have a group of our staff that is going to visit every single school to get video, photography, and identify stories for the entire year. And we're doing this in one day because we don't want to take time from principals to be, going and visiting. And honestly, there's probably not enough days in the year to be able to go several times, and also to edit all that information. And what the schools need to do, a lot of this is already done, complete the school updated form. This happened a few months ago, and thankfully principals were really fast in responding, so we were able to move forward. We're really thankful for that. And to share the school calendar with us, that is crucial. And then to schedule the media day. We gave them a prep sheet. That way, when our videographer, photographer, and copywriter show up, they can just go from one item to another and make it as easy as possible. They have to identify the first 3 highlights and share the first 3 stories. Moving forward, we're gonna have a new software. The progress so far, all the school sites have already been converted to the new design. So if you go and see any of these schools, you're gonna see the new design, but you're not gonna see all the content, meaning the videos are not there, the photography is not there, because we're still waiting on those media days. 25 of the sites have already completed their design meeting. 19 are scheduled, and this is numbers as of Friday. and they're going to be completed in the next 7 days. 3 sites have already had their media day, and we have all the content that we're going to need for the rest of the year, and 16 are already in line for scheduling. And as I talked to Kevin this morning, others have already been scheduled. What are the next steps? The software I was talking about, Class Intercom. We were able to, with existing budget that we had, able to contract with Class Intercom, which is an automated service that is going to help us update all the school sites, but also social media. So that way the schools are not going to have to be doing that on a constant basis. They just have to assign contributors. Contributors could be PTA, it could be students, it could be football players, anybody that's already taking a picture with their phone, and all they have to do is get an app on their phone, they submit the picture with what's happening in that picture, we get it approved, we make sure that it's good content, and all we have to do is press a button and it goes to different places at the same time. So that's going to automate what we're doing for all the content that we need for the schools. And talking about automation, the school site staff pages like the calendars, the staff updates, and the district news, those are in process. And as we get them in, they're going to be updated to every single of the pages that need it. And the Tour Site Manager training will be offered through True North Logic by October. And all the highlight videos that you'll see right now, they're going to be changing every quarter. And the background photos are going to be changing every 8 weeks. That's the estimate that we have. And during that media day, we're going to have all this content. So we're not going to have to be going every quarter to get a new video. We're not going to have to be going every 8 weeks to get video. I'm sorry, a photo. Have said that, we want the schools to still invite us to go cover events. We want the schools to still invite us to go and take pictures of different happenings in their school, because that's going to help have more content and not just what we did on the media day, which is school do it all the time. I'm really happy to cover all their events. So now we're going to go to a demonstration. We have White Elementary and Maldonado fully finished, and I'm going to go with the help of Jean, go through this demonstration. So this is the video. Every single school is going to have it, and we're taking drone videos of every single one of the campus, and we're focusing on students, on staff, on different programs that they have in each school, a lot of smiley faces, just make it as pleasing as possible. This video doesn't have audio, it's just visual. If you go down a little bit, the next step is these boxes. You have school links, staff, latest updates, tour, and enroll, which is extremely important in our lives. And we're going to hit school links. When you go there, you're going to have the White's information, all the information, district services and programs, from transportation to food services, any information for the family resource centers, et cetera. They're going to be able to find them here. The application links when they need to, get to Synergy, or they need, Parent View or Student View, any other applications that they need, and the community links. Let's go look at for families, please. When you go into families, you have all these tabs. Each one of these tabs used to be its own webpage. And it was extremely heavy of information and really difficult to find. Now you have everything in one page. You have PTO, you have Title I, you have contact information, and then you have a calendar to the site. So it's really, really accessible. Can we go back to the main page, Jean, please? One more. There we go. So the next part is any updates that are happening at the school. An announcement for the web design. I think it just went a little bit, if you go a little bit further down. All right, sign up for sports. Anything that the school wants to be highlighted, it goes right there. Then you have our news and the latest newsletter. And if you keep going down, you're gonna find the video that I want to show you. Not that one, Jean. Oh, it's because you're in the latest updates. You need to go to the main page. There you go. There we go. Oh, go up a little bit. I'm sorry. a little bit more to the black area. So right here, who we are: welcome, focus, mission, and special programs. This is the information that the principals gave to us, and we were able to highlight this. And what we offer. These circle logos were created especially for the website, and each one of them is selected by the principal. The principal tells us, this is what I want to highlight because this is what we're really proud of, and this is what we offer. Each one of them links to its own page. And if you keep going down, that's the picture that you see in the background. That's the background picture that's going to be changing every 8 weeks. And we're also telling the principals, what do you want to be your background? And that's why when they do the checklist, when they go do the media day, you know what, I want, students, and I want them in, doing mariachi, whatever the highlight that they want, we make sure that that's the picture, because it's kind of like the main point with the video on the very top. When you scroll down a little bit, you have upcoming events, site council meetings, PTO meetings, parent-teacher conferences, any updates and dates, events that are happening at the moment. Then you have the news to the left and our stories to the right. And this is the video that I want to show you tonight. And it's the welcome video from the principal. And it's like a 45-second maximum of a minute of the principal, what I call to brag about your school. You have 45 seconds. It's your elevator speech. Give it to us. So I want to play this one for them.
Hi, I'm Kelly Creasy, proud principal of White Elementary, home of the Bulldogs. At White Elementary, we are honored to have OMA Gold, two-way dual language, and self-contained gate. We also have a fantastic mariachi and folklorico program, and our basketball team is known throughout the district. Here at White Elementary, we focus on the 7 habits, as we are also a leader in Me School. We would love to have you join us. So if you'd like more information about White, call us at 520-908-5300.
I see this video. I really enjoy it. And like you see, it's a very fast, really quick, kind of like elevator speech kind of video. If you go down a little bit, Jean, please, you will also find other videos, like Dr. Trujillo went to visit the school last year in February, and we have the video there. Then we have another one, performing arts. So we try to add the most. And at the very end of the page is where we have in the spotlight. And this is the individuals that we want to highlight for every school. And we're going to be, changing those constantly as they come. So you saw White. I want to take you now to Maldonado, and it's going to be really quick. I'm not going to go step by step, but I just want you to see the similarities, but how different they are. So White was very blue. Maldonado is really red. Why? Because those are the colors of the school. You have the boxes in the red. You have the video on the top. You have the announcements. You have who we are. You have it's a B-rated school. We always promote the letter grades. If you keep going down, Jean, please. You have what we offer. You have the picture on the background. And then you have the upcoming events and our stories. You have the principal video right there. We're not going to play it for you, but if you're interested, please go see. And another thing that we're good. Thank you, Jean. If you go see any of the schools right now, you're going to already see them in that design. You're not going to see the video, you're not going to see the pictures, but that's the process that we're at right now, and that's our next steps, and we're really excited. We have the meetings with the principals. Everybody has seemed super excited about it. They're happy to see what their website is going to look like. I think this is a great positive way to promote our schools, making them more visual, making more excited, promoting the programs that we have, promoting our families, and promoting our kids, our teachers, etc. All right. Oh, I have my little thing right here. And there we go. Thank you so much. Any comments and questions, I'm glad to answer.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Escamilla. Ms. Ekstrom.
Hi, thank you for your presentation. So I know beforehand, principals were kind of frustrated with the amount of time that they would submit changes to their website, and that communications would make those changes. So what is the time frame from when a school wants to submit a change that it will actually be up on the website? So
all the requests come through the JIRA system. They come in order of as they come in, and the importance, it just goes on the line. There's a lot of the requests that take 5 minutes to do, and those will be taken immediately and they will have a priority. There are other changes that might have to take a little bit more time, but our team probably takes care of 40 to 50 requests a day. So we try to move as fast as we can.
Okay, so then within 24 to 48 hours.
Depending on the request, yes.
Okay, so something as simple as a calendar change, the principals can now do themselves.
The calendar change, as long as they put it in either in their Outlook calendar or they also do Teams calendar, those are going to be automatic. So as soon as they add it to their own calendar, it's going to be on the website automatically.
And when do you foresee all of the schools being up and running?
Our goal is to be able to have every single media day by October. We try to hit before fall break. It all depends on the availability of the schools. If they are available, they schedule their media day. We have the ability to be able to schedule all those before fall break, but it depends on how fast the schools submit their scheduling.
Okay, so then after that is done, when do you foresee all of the websites being completed?
As soon as we do the media day, everything is updated immediately. It takes a day or two to do.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Ekstrom. Dr. Shaw.
Thank you, President Luna Rose. I love the websites. I was on my oldest daughter's middle school website to get some information, and I was just happy to see that it was updated and looks great in many ways. A couple of questions and feedback pieces.
Yes.
Tax credit needs to be a lot more obvious. I had a lot of trouble this weekend on trying to find that and going back and forth with one of my daughter's teachers about the tax credit. So make sure that's as obvious as we can make it. Now I'm looking at my phone. It doesn't look the same on the phone. Like I'm on John E. White's site on the phone. I can't see the full video. And making sure this looks great on the I use usually on my laptop, but I think most of our parents and prospective parents are probably going to look on their phone when they look at this. So making sure it's as phone friendly, because I think a majority of people will be accessing them from the phones. And then have you had a lot of parent testers of the website to make sure it's navigable both on the web, but on the laptops, but also mostly on the phone to make sure it's navigable and that it's followable by folks? I remember a long time ago doing web testing for an organization I was part of as just a physician member, and hey, navigate these pages. Are you able to find what you're supposed to find? And then they were testing us to see how long it took us to find what we need to find on the desktop version of the website. And so making sure, especially using folks that maybe have low English language skills and low literacy skills, because I think a lot of our parents and community members we want to target our websites to and recruit probably aren't going to be as proficient as those in the office who are designing the websites to begin with.
Oh, I love the idea, and we definitely will put a plan in place to make those testings. I think it will be very beneficial. Thank you.
Ms. Shaw.
Thank you so much for the presentation. I think the websites look fabulous. I appreciate all the comments made by Ms. Ekstrom and Dr. Shaw. And I do have one question. So the button that, like on the far right, that says tour and enroll, I'm glad that that's so like front and center. When you click on it, it seems to like you have to choose whether you're a parent or like not a parent currently in TUSD. And if you're not, you don't currently have students enrolled, then like it asks you to put in all of this information, name, number, email. I wonder, like whenever that, like I'm on a website and asks me that, like when I'm trying to just find other information, I wonder if it might be better to like first go to a calendar. I don't know what it's like after you enter that information, but like maybe having a calendar of available times, and then if they click on one, and then it'll ask all that information. It might help keep people involved in that process.
We do have a button for scheduling a tour or a visit, and that's already in the enrollment part of the page. When you click, if you're a current family, it takes you straight to Parent View to do the online registration. When you are a new family to TUSD, it asks you those questions to make sure that you can create a Parent View account, because you cannot go ahead with the enrollment without creating a Parent View account. The change that we made is the families used to have to wait to call the school or call the enrollment ambassadors to be able to get a key that would allow them to create a parent view. And now we have made it automatic, so when they put their information, they get a parent view. They can create their own parent view, don't have to wait for a phone call. They don't have to wait, if it's happening on a Saturday and they have nobody to call. That was a block that we saw, right? So we got rid of that. So that's why I asked the questions, to make sure that they can create the parent view account.
Right, but if they just want a tour and they
Yes.
don't want to enroll, they still have to do the parent view
No,
account?
no.
Okay.
When you see the schedule a tour, they will click that right there, and it will take them to a scheduling site, and it gives you the days and the times that are available.
Okay, I didn't see that button at all, so maybe just make that more prominent if people just want to, dip their toes in the water. Because I just saw these blue buttons and
Yeah.
it's like new students. Okay, so
And the scheduling tour, we opened those scheduling sites last semester, and they were, like for a better word, they were a hit.
Okay.
Families really, really enjoy being able to just go in and schedule their own tour at their own convenience. And we do have the scheduling book button in different pages for different schools.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
But
Thank
yeah,
you.
thank you for the suggestion. We will make sure that we make it more prominent.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Another blue button.
Thank you. I had two questions.
Sure.
One, thank you for the presentation. I know you've been working really hard on this, so kudos to you and your
Thank you.
team. I think that looks great. I love the videos. I love the fact that Ms. Creasy was wanting to be a guinea pig. So thank you, Ms. Creasy, if you're listening. My two concerns are, though, one concerning the translations. So I think it's great that the translations has lots of languages, but it's really hard to scroll to, and the majority of our students' families speak Spanish. So and you can't even scroll to the Spanish right now. I don't know if it's frozen, as I'm looking at it right now. I don't know if we can move that.
Unfortunately, that's automated from the service. That's not something that we as a district can go and create. But one thing that we always try to let families know, and that's something that I tried myself to make sure that it worked, and it does. Once you go and translate one page, anytime that you go back, it would be to your language, and you won't have to keep going back and forth or trying to find the language unless you click it that you don't want it anymore. The HP versus the Mac, HP is a lot easier than Mac to change that translation, but unfortunately that is not something that we have control over. It's a Macintosh, Google issue.
Okay. Yeah, it's just, and that I understand. I just, it's just a little hard right now. Like, I can't even scroll over to the actual Spanish. Closest I can get to is Latin. So just...
I would make sure that we check that to make sure
Yeah.
there's like a bug preventing that from happening,
Okay.
and make sure that it runs smooth. Maybe during the whole process of the reconfiguration of the design, something kind of glitched it, and I'll make sure that that is looked at.
Okay, thank you. And then my second suggestion is making sure that, and I'm clicking on the personalization options, that this is screen reader friendly for families
Yes.
with
Yes.
parents
All of it.
and
Mhm.
students with disabilities.
100%.
Okay. All right. All right, that's all I had. Board members, any other questions for Mrs. Camilla? Ms. Shaw?
Thank you for catching that, Miss Luna Rose, because I looked after you mentioned the thing about the language, and I could only get to the ends. So, I think that definitely needs to be fixed. So,
Yes.
all languages can be scrolled through.
And I'm also going to see if there's a possibility to put at the top our top 10 languages. Instead of having to scroll to all of them, we have identified the top 10. So I'm going to see if that is a possibility that we can do. That way, when they press it, if we can do that customization. I don't know if it's possible, but we will definitely look into it.
I think that would be ideal if we could do that and then start from there. Okay, thank you. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great night.
You too. Okay, we are on 8.2, HVAC status report, update on TUSD site cooling issues. Dr. Trujillo.
Yes, members of the governing board, I'd like to welcome our Director for Facilities, Mr. Greg Meyer. As I mentioned earlier, we are still slugging our way through cooling season. It's been a long summer and it continues to be. And so we wanted to give the board an update on where we're at with some of the hot spots around the district in terms of schools and facilities. And then also talk about some cost estimates. I know there's been some discussion at our last update about maybe moving towards purchasing more of the portable units that are Freon based to help us out in some of these outage areas. So here to walk us through is Greg.
Okay, thank you very much. And good evening, President Luna Rose, Clerk Ekstrom, board members, Dr. Trujillo, and General Counsel, Mr. Ross. So I'm here tonight to give you an update on the status of HVAC across the district. So we'll go on to the first slide here, and we will continue. Okay, so the first thing I'd like to just inform you about is our staff update. So right now we do have 10 HVAC technicians on staff. We have 2 open positions that we're actively recruiting for, and we have 6 contracted service companies in the fold that we can call on if needed. Next, we're going to take a look at the open work orders. This report here was as of yesterday, so you can see where we were with the total work orders and across the region. So when we look at it, it's pretty even across all of the regions, and I can tell you that the number this morning was 282, so it dropped another 20, so it continues to go down. So that's really good news there from the work order standpoint. So moving on here, the completed work orders just since August 1st, we have a total of 591 work orders that have been completed, 327 over on the HVAC side, 204 over on the energy management control system side, and contracted services at 60. So for a total of 591 work orders, so we have been quite busy. Okay, next. So what I'd like to do is just give a summary of what's going on with the school facility department projects that we have in place right now for HVAC. So these are we had 31 sites that have been affected by this activity, and it's $8.9 million of approved funding from the state. So that's really a great thing for us. So when we take a look at it, if we continue here, so this is just a summary of the projects that are actually active and are in progress. They're in different stages of process. It might be the assessment of a project. It could be the design of it. It could even be construction. So these are all the sites where we actually have activity right now. So there's quite a number on that first slide there. And if we move on, we have more. So, you can see a lot of them are pretty much, the chiller replacements, which are a big deal because they're very expensive, first of all. But in those schools, when you lose a chiller, the whole school potentially can go down. And so unless we happen to have a redundant system in place, so, those are really important to us, as well as the cooling towers. There's another part of the whole system that if that goes down, you've got a problem because your chiller is going to shut down because we're not actually supplying with chilled water. So you can see just the number of projects in view there that are actually active and in progress. So then the next area here that I want to talk about is just the projects that are in closing, are actually pending closing. So what that means is that the projects are basically done, but we're just finishing up with punch lists and making sure that everything is exactly the way it needs to be per the scope of work that we've outlined for each of the projects. So you can see some of those here that, again, the chiller replacement at Catalina, and let's see, there's some other ones here, the boiler replacements. So that's really good. We're making progress there. And the next slide, again, are some really good projects that we're closing out as well. Another chiller replacement at Sabino. So anyway, that's basically where we're at on those SFD projects. So, and again, $8.9 million that we have with them right now. So that's a great thing. I'll get into that just a little bit more when we talk about the bond here. So that's where we're going to go next. We're going to talk about the bond and these are the projects that we're working on right now for Q1. And of course, the big one that we've been on TV quite a bit about here lately is the package unit replacements. And right now we have 10 sites that are completed, and you can see where they're at there. We have 2 sites in progress at Davis and Monzo. I was at Davis today, and that is in progress. That's coming along. So I'm glad to see that. And then, of course, there's just 2 more pending sites. Actually, not pending because Bonilla started yesterday, and so that's a good thing. And then Borton is scheduled for, I believe it is Friday, the September 13th. So what we're doing on those is the work's actually being done at night, usually starting around 4 or so in the afternoon and then going into the night so that we're not disrupting the school. And I think that's a really a great thing to do now that we've actually moved into the school year. Before, of course, we were working on a lot of these projects while school was out. So, and I will continue to work that type of a system where we'll do a lot of work at night, and our contractors have been really good about working with us on that. So that's looking pretty good. The next thing that we're going to talk about are the control system replacements. Now, this is really important because I've talked to you all about this before, about the status of controls. And it's not only the equipment that is deficient in this district, but it's the control systems as well. And so I think I told you before that some of these control systems run on Windows XP, if anybody remembers that one. And that isn't even supported anymore. And so that is not a comfortable feeling for any of us to know that we have some systems running on Windows XP, and we also have schools that don't have any controls at all. In fact, out of that list right there, out of those 17 sites, I think I recall here, I probably should get my sheet out, but yeah, here we go. Out of those 17 sites, let's see, Cragen, Davidson, Hughes, Miles, Tully, and Whitmore, they are running on thermostats. That's the only controls that they have in the school. So by us including the controls for them, we'll be able to centrally monitor and also control the temperatures in those schools. So that's a great thing because, again, you want to be able to see the school and know what's going on, so you don't have to rely on the school to say, hey, this unit's down or we're having issues. We should be able to know that ourselves. So I think just the whole control system replacement now in Q2 is going to be huge for us. And I guess I can tell you that the technology that's out there with these control systems now will just knock your socks off. I mean, it's incredible the stuff that we have vetted in this whole process with talking to different vendors. I think we talked to about 5 altogether when we were vetting them, and TS was involved in that, just so everybody knows, so that TS could ask a lot of questions in terms of what's actually needed to run those systems. And so I was really glad that they were there. And so we had everybody on board with just vetting the different control systems. We settled on 2. We thought that would be probably better than just being a captive audience with one particular company. So we did that, and I can just say that the goal here is that in that EMCS shop, what we want to see is up on the wall. I can see it now. Up on the wall, we're going to have 5 screens, 1 for each region. So when the folks come in the morning, they can look up there on those screens, and if they can see something in red, they know that something's in alarm, and they know that right away. And so that's the kind of controls that we want to see, because then we can take immediate actions with that. And as I said, it's really incredible, the technology that's out there. So this is really a great thing for us. Yeah, the equipment is old, but again, with the bond, we're going to replace a lot of the units. But until we're able to do that, if we can get these controls in place, that's going to help us a lot, because then we can have more confidence that when we see a temperature, that's really what it is. Because today I can tell you that if we see a temperature, I always kind of wonder, is that really what it is, or is it off? And we don't want to run stuff like that. So that's another reason why I'm really excited about that part of it with the control system replacements. Okay, next, let's talk about a proposal that we have here to add some more Freon portable air conditioners. I included a picture of what it looks like. It's kind of interesting because it has those two, we call them arms, I guess, coming out of the unit. But this is not something that you would just pick up at Home Depot or Lowe's or something. So they're pretty heavy duty units. And this one here is a 1.5 ton unit that we've decided that we really like the best. And this one actually runs on 110 volts. So most of our classrooms, you're not going to find a 220 volt outlet in a classroom. So that's the biggest unit that we can get and still operate on 110 volts. So that's going to cover anywhere from about 700 to 800 square feet. I have to tell you, the majority of our classrooms are about 900. That's kind of an average. So it doesn't exactly cover the whole thing, but it definitely helps. So, and we have been able to use them in a lot of situations, and it has really helped us give some cooling to the schools while we're trying to get to them and to fix those units and get them back up and running again. So right now we have 20 units in stock, and so the proposal would be that we would actually double that to 40, and that then would come in at a cost of approximately $90,000. So that's where we're at in terms of just a proposal to add more of the portable units. As you can see, that white tube coming out of that's an exhaust system there. So you do it one of two ways. You either run it up above the ceiling if you can, if it's not a hard deck ceiling. If it's just a regular ceiling tile ceiling, you take out a ceiling tile, you can run that exhaust up above the ceiling, or you have to vent it out a window is the way that works, so that you can get rid of the hot air. So anyway, I just wanted to put that in there so you had a little better idea what those units look like. Okay, the next thing is the decision tree that we use to prioritize the work orders. So I know everybody's interested in knowing exactly how it works when a work order comes in. So we have three basic priorities that we work with. So number one would be emergency work orders, and you can see examples of that up there on the screen where the entire site is down or a wing is down, and then an active or severe condensation leak. That's an emergency, of course. ADA classrooms, X-Ed, and early learning, again, are considered emergencies, so we have to react to that right away. We get somebody out there as fast as we can. The high work orders would be things like the cafeteria, the nurse's office, pre-Ks, let's see, the special classrooms there. I'm having a little trouble seeing that. Let's see, the server rooms and health code violations. Those are considered high priorities. And then the other priorities would be a normal priority, which you can see there. Classrooms without special needs, portable classrooms, the kitchens, admin offices, lounges, auditoriums, the theaters, libraries, and standalone MPRs. So those are the ones that we consider to be normal work orders. Right now, just due to the volume of work orders that have come in, we are behind on those 10-day work orders, so we are going to engage our contractors again here very quickly so that we can take care of those as fast as we can. So, but this is the tree, this is how it works. So we just go down there, we ask questions, yes or no, and then that helps us determine exactly where we need to go with a work order. So it's worked pretty well for us, I have to say. I think it does give structure to how we do things, realizing that we only have so much resource to work with, as you all know, in terms of staff and the funds available. So we just have to prioritize and to do the best we can to get to those classrooms as soon as we can. But again, I just have to thank the patrons of the school district for passing the bond, because this is really a big deal for us in terms of HVAC. We don't want any kids in a 90-degree classroom. There's no doubt about that. And so we will continue to work on this until we get it. And especially with what we're doing with our controls, we want that to be planned out for the next 20 to 25 years. So that's really what the goal is, that we can leave this in a lot better shape than what we found it. So I think with that, I believe that's about all I've got to present here tonight, but I'll certainly take any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Trujillo.
Put up the previous slide that shows the workflow. So one of the things I do want to brief the public and certainly the governing board is as these outages have become more severe and we start to see more, we have seen more outages in the red square. We've moved away from combining classes and moving kids to other areas to just school closures for the day. The conditions are no longer conducive at that point when you're in the red square for an entire school to actually be operationally viable for a day. You can also have situations in the green square where if you have enough single classrooms that are out and you don't have enough community spaces to move the classes, like a library or a community area or utilization of the cafeteria, depending on the number of outage areas in the green square, you can also go into a whole school closure for a day or two until we can get you up and running. So we're starting to utilize that as a tool. We want to make sure that obviously there are considerations with instructional minutes when you have to do an operational closure for a day. But conditions as such, this summer, especially with the extreme heat, that safety supersedes all in terms of us making those types of calls. So we always communicate as quickly as we can with parents to kind of let them know, hey, this is the situation, and they're always very appreciative. And along that line, I really want to thank the employees over there at Wakefield Middle School. They had a whole school closure last week. They came together. They did amazingly well in terms of their grace and flexibility and helping us get in touch with parents, make sure that kids were picked up safely. I'd also like to ask Greg to talk about the categories of work orders that are assigned to our contracted partners and the ones that we take on internally.
Sure, and so generally speaking, a lot of the chiller work orders go to the contractors. Typically, it's going to take a little more time to get those up and running, so we will give those to the contractors, and then we try to focus on a lot of the package units that we have on the roofs. So that's really kind of how we're doing it right now. It can change. It depends on what it is, especially if there's some kind of an emergency that we have to get to at a school that's got package units. Let's say that there's a number of them down. We found that it has been working out pretty well to have a contractor go over there and address those at one time. So that's basically the way we're running that right now with the contractors.
Can we go back to the slide with the unit? A question about that.
The portables?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah,
Portable
okay.
units.
Okay.
So, kind of looks like a cross between R2D2 and a Dalek for nerds who are listening.
Actually, that's what we call them.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, we do actually, but I left that out. But that's actually what we call it.
Oh, that's hilarious. Okay. I'm just curious with the hooding there. Does that go out a classroom window?
It can. If you have a ceiling that's a hard deck, it's a sheetrock ceiling, for example, that just really doesn't lend itself well to that exhaust because you almost have to poke a hole in the ceiling. So then the option would be to run it out the window. We prefer, of course, to just run it up above the classroom because it's a lot quicker. It really is. If we have to mess with the window, it takes longer, but that's really about the only other option that we have with that. That's opposed to like the evaporative coolers where you just roll them into the room and put water in them and off they go. Of course, now we just basically use those for fans because we don't want to add any more humidity. That just makes things more miserable. But anyway, the evaporative coolers, you can just roll into the classroom and start them up. But this takes longer, but everybody's a lot more comfortable with this. Well, like I said, most of the classrooms are right at about 900 square feet. So this will do, 700 to 800 is really what it's spec'd at. So, I mean, we can get it close, but it sure is better than not having anything at all.
Okay. And then with the portable Freon, is it the one that's up to code now? Was it R22, or was that what's being used in this?
Yeah. Well, actually, that's all changing right now too. As a matter of fact, I think it changed just a few days ago. On September 1st, all the manufacturers are going to a new Freon. I forget exactly what the designation is, but they've actually stopped making units right now where they change over to this new to the new Freon. But this is based on what was in place prior to that one. A lot of it is the 410. I'm pretty sure that's what those are there, but I could certainly look that up. But it's the most recent version of the Freon that's out there. The R22, as we've talked about before, that's the one that's getting very expensive. It's hard to find. They don't make it anymore. And that's another reason why the sooner that we can get the units off the roof, the better off we're going to be, because that's not good when we have to purchase a lot of that Freon.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Shaw and then Mr. Romero.
Thank you, President Luna Rose, and thank you for the presentation tonight. I have one comment and I have a question. First comment on the staff. I think a couple of years ago when we were talking about different specialty staff, we had a lot more vacancies amongst our HVAC technicians. So I'm really happy to see that we have 10 folks within our district and only 2 vacancies. That's a huge improvement from what I remember a few years ago. So great job on recruiting and retaining some folks in our district for the specialty service. My comment, our question is about Wakefield specifically. So that came up recently. And I know Wakefield, before it opened a few years ago, reopened a few years ago, went through major renovations. With those renovations just cosmetic, I was surprised to see that on the list of schools that had HVAC issues this fall because of its recent renovations. So can you talk about what we did and didn't do in terms of the HVAC system compared to the cosmetic renovations that Wakefield had?
Yeah, that's a good question. I wasn't involved in that one. I'd have to go back and just check to see exactly what was done there in terms of the HVAC. But I can tell you that was an unfortunate situation there at Wakefield, because basically what happened there, a pipe broke that off the pump that supplies water to the cooling tower, and that's what shut everything down. Because again, when the chiller doesn't get chilled water supplied to it, it goes into alarm and it shuts down. So that's really what was going on there, was a broken pipe, which was unfortunate. So, but anyway, what happened too was, and here again, this is where your controls come into play, because I have a feeling what happened there is that was on Labor Day weekend, and I think what happened is it must have broke on maybe Friday or Saturday, because that school sat there for probably a couple days. By the time they got in there, I think Brian Lambert told me when they got in there in the morning, it was 95 in there. So I mean, obviously the walls must be insulated pretty well because it's holding that heat in there. And so the thing is that it was 95, and so that's why Dr. Trujillo said they made the call to just call off school while we try to get that fixed. And we had it fixed in the day, but again, it does take a while to cool down. That's a rather large school over there, and so it does take a while to actually cool it back down again. But I'd have to go back and check and just see exactly what those renovations were, what was actually done to the HVAC as part of bringing that school up to, I guess, up to the renovated state. So I just have to check that out.
Thank you.
But I want to make one more comment, though, before I leave this, and that is, thanks to you all again, we were able to raise the wages of those HVAC technicians. Nobody would even apply. We sat there, I think it was at least a year and a half or maybe longer, and nobody even applied. So, I mean, we just couldn't do that. So I want to thank the board for making sure that those wages got raised, because it did make a big difference. So now, I think right now we haven't had a lot of applications, but I know that there's a lot of activity going on out there right now, and probably the people that might be interested are so beat into the ground working 20-hour days that I don't know if they have the strength to maybe apply. But let's hope that maybe when things cool down that we'll be able to get some apps in so we can fill those other 2 positions. But I did want to comment on that.
Thank you. Mr. Romero.
So of these portable Freon units, how many are being used right now, the 20 we have?
I think they're all in operation right now.
So they're all at the school?
Well, they're somewhere in the district. I mean, I think that the majority, I know that there were 2 that had to go to one of our support sites, but I think all the rest of them were at the schools.
Okay. Well, the reason I'm asking, again, especially if we're having issues like this, I know Dietz looks like they're having something for their cafeteria or kitchen, because the cafeteria has AC, but the kitchen doesn't. And it just so happened I was at Dietz today, and I go through this, the flow chart. We talk about emergency things of that nature, and they had their AC go down on Wednesday, I believe it was. And we have, so I was visiting the classrooms. So I was able to visit the algebra teacher, Mrs. Lopez, and visit her class where it was 90 degrees in her classroom. She had a 2-foot by 2-foot fan by her where she was teaching class. And so I was looking at these 25, 27 students that were in there and trying to explain as a board member, why did they not have cooling in that classroom right over there? So I know for me it was a very awkward position. And I understand coming up to the kitchen area, that's going to be good for those. Right now it was pretty bearable. But, certain things like that when they had people that left because they weren't feeling well because of the heat inside of that. And I know we had, like we mentioned with Wakefield, are there temporary other cooler fans that we can put inside of there other than like a 2-foot by 2-foot fan that the teacher had to bring in for themselves? It's just like I said, for me, it was difficult to look at all those kids in the face and say, I'm sorry having to learn a 90-degree temperature.
I think I know that feeling myself. And so, yeah, that's the last thing that we want when we go into a classroom and see that it's at 90 degrees. And so there are things that we can do in terms of more fans. Again, the evaporative coolers, we can take those in there. We can use them as fans to try to circulate the air more until such time that we can get somebody deployed on that, in a situation like that. But I know, I've looked in people's eyes too. So I know exactly what that feeling, or what it feels like.
And do our teachers and principals know that we have these extra coolers and these portable units, or if they haven't used it before, are they aware that they're available?
Yeah, and that's a good question. And yes, they are, because our customer service center, they're really good about taking those calls. And typically, in a case like that, they will check and see, the status of what coolers we have available. They'll call the warehouse, and they will check with the warehouse to see. And if we have something there, then the customer service center will dispatch the warehouse, and we'll take the cooler over is how it would work. But I think having more units in play, though, that would help too. It really would.
Yeah, and I'm thinking that might be an option also. I know we recently have defibrillators put in all the different schools. Wouldn't it be advantageous to at least have one of these units? I understand there's a cost that goes around with it. I'm just kind of throwing that out there with, having one at each school as a possibility. Again, I'm not sure budget-wise. We need to talk to Ricky on this. I'm just throwing that out as a possible option.
I think that's a great idea. And again, we'd have to talk to finance and see what we could do in regard to that. The key then would be to make sure that we have the principal or the custodians maybe trained on how to do that, just because of the fact that we do have to vent it properly. And so that would be the only thing, just making sure. And I know that might make my HVAC people a little squeamish with that, but it's just because it's their equipment. And so, but anyway, that's a great idea, especially, if we had them across the board in, I'm not trying to play favorites here, but in the elementaries where we have all the kindergartens, the pre-Ks, and all of this going on, I think that'd be a great idea, because there'd be one at every site. And then if something happens, okay, bingo, we just roll it in there. And again, if the custodians knew exactly what to do, we can train them. And then that way we could just plug it in and let's do it right there. Turn in the work order. We're going to get to it as soon as we can. But I think that would help, really. So I think we have about, Dr. Trujillo, don't we have about 55 elementaries? Or I think that's about right.
Yeah, you've actually got like 60, and then you add in the K-8s. Yeah. But I do want to say, for Greg, Yeah, I mean, the ideal would be at least you have one for every site. We are working with Freon, so it does require a trained professional to be able to, handle the units. The venting, also, we've got requirements with the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality, ASDEC, that we'd have to make sure we're in compliance with, but we can kind of create that infrastructure and system. The portable units are they're so effective to have on hand when there's an outage, because if you're dealing with a singular classroom outage, you can roll one right in, you can hook it up. Because the larger outages we get to fairly quickly, we do really struggle with the singular classroom outage. That's like the number one issue, that you get the emails, I get the emails. And because it's not a campus-wide shortage or it's not a building-wide shortage, it kind of goes to the back of the queue. But in the mind of the educators in that room, everything's urgent. I understand that. Like when it's 90 degrees. So I do think that the extent to which we can multiply the amount of units that we have available, that we can roll them in, I think is very important. I also want to advocate on behalf of our staff, especially not just our HVAC, but all of our operations. Later on this year, you're going to be looking at a school calendar for the next 2 years. We keep shortening the runway for the operations team to get in and look at our major systems in off time: electrical, plumbing, HVAC, water. We already take all of June for summer school. We already get out in mid-May. And now we're starting to back school up, and we're starting now basically at the very beginning of August. They really don't have a viable window of time where they can get in and do a lot of the troubleshooting and a lot of the preventative maintenance that they actually have to do when the plane is flying. Okay, so and I know it's difficult, and the board has to consider testing schedules. You've got state assessments that have to come in. We know that there's expectations around fall break and winter break and summer break. But just to start getting our board members thinking about our operational team's needs, because I know we're never going to get back to starting school after Labor Day, which obviously would be ideal with the extreme heat that we see here in our region. But even creating another week or creating another week and a half of lead time for your operations teams to get in there and do that work, where they have the campuses to themselves and there's not summer school or late spring, just something to think about on top of purchasing these units as well.
Michelle.
Thank you. Thanks for the presentation. Let's see. I appreciate all the comments from the board so far. Dr. Shaw, you brought up a really good point about Wakefield. The fact that that's a renovated school and all of that. And so, yeah, it is surprising that they had such an issue. My HVAC guy tells me that I'm supposed to change my filter every 2 months. That's what he said. I know, but he said because it helps with preventative maintenance. And so I wonder, are we doing preventative maintenance at our schools? I don't know if these huge units have filters. I imagine they may. But are we changing the filters? Are we cleaning the coils so that they don't we're spending a huge amount of money on these, and so that they have a longer lifespan?
Well, that's a very good point, and he was probably right. I guess I change mine every 3 months at the house. But anyway, the thing is that we do have a preventative maintenance department. There's staff for 10. I think we only have 8 right now, so we need a couple positions there in the preventative maintenance area, but that's their goal, is to change out the filters every 3 months. Sometimes it's a little bit longer. It can extend into 4 months. It depends on sometimes what we run into. But that is the goal. And then, of course, the cleaning of the coils goes along with that. And so, but I think, Dr. Trujillo's right over here when he's saying, if we had a little more time that we could really get in there and try to do more things while nobody's around, that's a big deal. In fact, I know that we have, maybe I shouldn't even go into this, but I know that everybody gets the 2 weeks off at Christmas, but from a facility standpoint, we would sure like to maybe work a little time during that time. So maybe that's something else that I'm not sure exactly where we have to go with that. But anyway, it's great to have some time off, no doubt about it. But those are great times, like the fall break coming up. They can't wait. They can't wait to get in there for a week and do some floors and do some of this other work that we'd really like to do. But especially with the HVAC systems, that would be huge if we just had more time to try to get that done and really concentrate on that while nobody's around. So we're not, interrupting anything or bothering anybody. So, but that's what it is. We do have a department. That's what their charge is.
And so there is like a maintenance schedule for every school. Okay, great.
There is.
Great. Let's see. And then I mentioned like the last time you heard about like having tents for our HVAC employees. Is there any move on that so that they're not in like the sun? I know you said that they work like in the dark now.
Yeah, I've heard about that, and I have to say, I think that one might have escaped me.
No worries.
And so I'm going to have to remember. I'm going to have somebody help me remember that one, because I do know that there are those type of things out there that can be used when you're working on a unit, like on a roof and so forth. But I just I have to be honest about it. I think that one slipped my mind, but that's something that we could certainly be looking into.
Okay, cool. Let's see. Oh, and then so when Mr. Romero mentioned like the classroom at 90 degrees, looking back at the flow chart, like I believe it said that when it's if it's not an emergency, then a classroom that is down is supposed to go to like a multi-purpose room, library, cafeteria. And so I wonder, does every school site know about that policy, or I guess do they know about the flow chart? And do teachers know that if there is an issue in their class, even if they notify facilities, they should also let their principal know and request a room if available?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think Dr. Trujillo wants to weigh in on that one.
Yeah, Dr. Trujillo.
They definitely know, because they're not happy about it, and they don't like merging classes. They do not like moving classes to alternative locations. It's usually one of three scenarios. They're out of space, and that teacher that's in that singular room is charged with, okay, would you like to go to the library? The teacher may say, we can tough it out here for the day, depending on what kind of the repair timeline is. We can tough it out for 2 days. Scenario number 2 is there is space, and that class could potentially move. And then scenario number 3 is actually merging into another larger classroom space if it's available, and having 2 teachers work together. Because of the inconvenience, these are all very unpopular with both teachers and administrators. And most would rather see just, if we're not operationally viable for the day, close us, fix us, reopen us when it's safe. Where that becomes tough is the singular classroom, that it's maybe 2 or 3 classrooms in a hall of 10 that are out. That's where these units would come in handy. Like, just roll them in, get us going for the day. The evaporative coolers, we have them. I'm not a big fan of them unless you're standing directly in front of them. They'll cool you if you're like right in front of them, but in a space of 25, 30 students, it doesn't really make a huge difference. It might bring that 90 down to maybe 88, 87 if you're lucky, which is still very difficult conditions.
Okay, thanks for adding that in. Yeah, I hope that we can get to the point where we have like at least one for every school site, though, if there's multiple classrooms.
I think that would help. I really do.
Yeah.
Because then we could just get it in there and have the staff trained, and I just really think that would help, because Dr. Trujillo is right. We have to prioritize. We just have to. And so if it's one classroom, I know it's really difficult for that one classroom, but we just have to prioritize based on the resources that we have. But if we had that up our sleeve, that would help a lot, I think.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Romero. Oh, Mrs. Ekstrom.
So going back to that question, so at Dietz, there was a classroom operating in 94-degree conditions. I just feel like that is not acceptable to the students or the teacher. And then another question for you, Dr. Trujillo. When the schools are shut down, are the teachers required to stay in that school?
When the school is shut down and the students are home, depending on what type of a situation it is, yes, or it could be no, right? So Yes, if there are areas of the school, now minus the students, that are actually cooled adequately where parts of the system are working, sure, they can move in and they can work in those areas that have sufficient air condition. If you're looking at a total absolute outage of the school, we certainly would encourage staff at that point to work remotely, just to try to keep everybody appropriately cooled. We do have staff that will say, well, I prefer to work in my classroom, I'm fine. So we do kind of run into that sometimes. I think that grappling with the singular classroom issue, we're probably now going to have to entertain as an administration what it looks like for singular classroom closures. If we just simply run out of space and working through a new structure where you could actually be in a school, but if your classrooms are down and you don't have another alternative space, it might be a release for those 2 classrooms, and then us kind of figuring out those parts about instructional minutes and makeup, if there's any. I think they're probably headed to that territory.
And then one more question. So I've been to a couple of schools in these past few weeks, and they talked to me about their kitchen, how it's just unbearable. So when we're replacing EVAP, it doesn't necessarily mean that the kitchen is going to be done as well with the HVAC?
Okay, so, well, the way that's going to work is that the kitchens are a project within themselves. And the reason that they are, when you convert from EVAP to Freon, first of all, you have to design it. You have to design the system because of the air that's actually displaced from a kitchen because of the big hoods and so forth that you have there. So what it means is that it can take a month for a HVAC engineer to design the system, and then it can take another 6 to 8 weeks to tear everything out and put everything back in. So we consider the kitchens a standalone project by themselves. The rooftops, those are great because they're kind of pick and place. Take one out, put one in, hook it up, off we go. But anyway, the kitchens, they are a project just because of that. And so I tell, when we talk to the schools about that, we make sure they understand that this is not, it can't happen overnight just because of the length of time it takes to do that. So, but we are committed to make sure that we get that process done, and we're actively engaged in that right now as far as determining, the path for that.
Okay.
Yep.
Dr. Trujillo.
Yeah, just a quick word on kitchens. We're actually, in the spirit of saving bond dollars, we're pursuing all of our kitchen upgrades through the School Facilities Board. So it may take a little longer, but it's going to save us millions in bond dollars. So yeah, the kitchens are a whole separate thing, and I'm glad we're pursuing that option with School Facilities Board.
Okay, because I just don't think the public understands that the kitchen's a whole different ballgame. So I'm glad that you were able to explain that today. Thank you.
I did have a question, Mr. Meyer. So these, I'm going back to the portable units. So how long would it take for these additional 20 units to get here? What is a delivery time?
I know I asked about the warranty, but I don't know if I asked them about the delivery on it. I'd have to go back and confirm what we're looking at for that. I think that the ones that we're looking at here, I think were actually available. So I don't think that the lead time would be that big. It's not like we'd have to order them and wait, 4 or 5 months. So, but I didn't actually ask that question about what the delivery would be. I kind of wanted to find out, kind of how everybody was feeling about it first. But the way I understood it, I think that they're pretty much readily available.
Okay. Because, from what I'm hearing, I don't think any of the board members would be opposed to at least starting with these units. Eventually we'd love to have one at every site. But I think starting here and working with Mr. Hernandez and all that, depending on where that would come, the 90,000 would come from.
Well, there is one other thing that I want to add, and I just want to say how exciting it is to have those 14 sites in play right now. We actually have another one. Ochoa got replaced 2 years ago. So it gives us 15 sites where we basically have new equipment. That is a relief. I can just put it that way, because we don't feel like we need to worry about the kids in those schools, because the efforts that are being made now, and thanks to the patrons and approving the bond and all of this, it really is a relief. So I just wanted to say that. I want to go on record with that. So.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Romero.
So in regards to going back to Dietz, the kitchen evap and AC, now that it's a whole different animal, how long does that process take, roughly?
Yeah, that would take, even if we start on kitchen tomorrow, it would probably take a minimum of 3 months to do it. By the time you design it and then you tear it all out and then you put it back in and make sure everything is exactly the way it is. Because see, what it is with a kitchen is that the equipment in all these kitchens can be different. And so Lindsay could speak to that a lot better than I can. To me, they all look like stoves. But anyway, it's just that they're all different. And that's why they have to be engineered, basically separately. You just can't have a cookie cutter approach to a kitchen. So at a minimum, it's 3 months.
So then would a project like that, since it looks like it's on the active or in progress type of thing and nothing's happened on that one, would that be something that would wait till a winter break or the summertime because it's going to take that long?
I don't think so. And the thing is that Lindsay is very creative in how she runs her kitchens. And we've already talked about this. We've had a lot of discussions with Lindsay and my HVAC manager, Aaron Conyas, as well. We've sat down and talked about this, and we said, hey, look, is there a way that if we could just get this rolling, that we just do it continually, 12 months out of the year? We don't have to wait till summer. I mean, that would take us 10 years. I mean, if we just wait till summer to do it. So Lindsay can figure it out so that she'd close down that kitchen for 3 months, and she can bring in food, she's good at like sack lunches or all of this, or the neighboring school supplies this and that, whatever. She's really good at that. So I think that if we can get it rolling, we're working on it. The bond department's working on this, but I think that should be the goal. It should never stop. We just get it rolling and let's get this done, because we value our cooks. We all know that. They're great people, and we don't want them in those kind of conditions. And that's the one that I don't like looking in the eyes on. I mean, seriously, because I go back to these kitchens and I'm looking at them and they're looking at me, and I go, well, the cooler is running. I'm standing right underneath it and it's running, but it's just, that doesn't help a whole lot when you've got kids to feed and all that. So that's something that we really got to keep focusing on and make sure that we get it done.
And then as far as communication to these different schools, because talking with Jesus today, he had no idea he was in the queue as far as coming up soon with the kitchen evap and AC. Or when we were having the conversation in the cafeteria, nothing came on up of that. So what are we doing to communicate to all these schools that we're going to be coming to them with fixing their chillers or HVACs, et cetera?
So basically the way that works is that when we really get actively involved in that, then that's where there's meetings held with the project managers. They go out to the schools and they inform the school exactly what we're going to do and how we're going to do that. So that is the way that communication would be. He may not know it at this point because it's in the queue right now, but when we get ready to really start rolling it out, that's when those meetings are held.
Okay. Thank you.
So that'll be coming up.
Thank you.
Board members, any other questions? Ms. Shaw.
Well, I'm glad we're talking about the kitchens because it is like an OSHA issue, and I wonder if we should just go ahead and like double the amount of portable units, so maybe we can move some of those to the kitchens as well, because I don't think 40 is going to be enough to even help at this point. Like if we had 60, that would go a little further, but yeah, I think there's money available because this is with bond dollars, right, for the portable ACs, or no?
Dr. Trujillo.
We would most likely stay away from bond dollars on the portable units and probably look at plant fund purchase at that point. I do think that the singular most effective next step is increasing the amount of these units for all the reasons that we've talked about. Even when you talk about the singular classroom closure, we're now imposing a hardship on parents who now have to adjust a work schedule on the fly. So it's kind of like any way you deal with it, there's an issue, and these really take us out of that territory. So I'm all for. I will say that we'll probably be back because we're going to be probably at the threshold. With 90,000, we can just operate off of board direction, but I would like to see us, if there's I'm getting the sense there's a willingness here, we'll come back for governing board authorization for more units. That would cross the threshold in terms of the expenditure, and you would have to vote on that. And our source would most likely be plant fund.
Okay, can we get that for next board meeting?
Yeah, this is a priority issue because we are probably looking at least another 6 weeks, 5 maybe. What day is it? September 10th. Like for me, just August and September have just been a slow slog with this hot weather, and we're still dealing with probably another 3-4 weeks at least of these triple-digit temperatures. So I want us to be back here on the 24th with a revised cost estimate so we can get action from the board and get the purchase going.
I need to weigh in on what you just said here, Board Member Shaw, and that is you brought up the kitchens. There's a problem with putting a portable air conditioner in a kitchen just because of all the air that is leaving because of those vents. Unfortunately, it doesn't do a whole lot for us in a kitchen setting, and so that's why just the whole issue with these kitchens. I know that we've even explored these hi-fi, new and improved evap systems and all of this. They're very expensive. I mean, they're just outrageous how much money that they want for some of these hi-fi, improved evac systems, because we've looked at this. And so, but anyway, we just want to try to do something where we can help them. But I just want you to know that, it can be done. It's not very effective in a kitchen just because of that.
Okay, thank you for mentioning that. Well, maybe we could get those giant fans or something for the kitchens. We need to.
You mean those
them.
great big round
Those
ones?
huge ones.
Yeah, I know.
Those big.
I've used those before. They push a lot of air.
Right. And then, also going to mention Duffy Clothing Bank again because it's suffering over there in extreme heat. So if we can get like a huge fan or one of these units or something to help the Duffy Clothing Bank out, that would be great. I know that like a lot of our admin too are experiencing extreme heat. When I was over at 1010, Ricky had one in his room, and he's so familiar with it. He named her, I think Bertha, was it? And then I know Legal was down with their cooling as well. So I think we should definitely purchase like 40 or more of these, and I'm looking forward to approving that at one of the next meetings.
Yeah, I think that I'm glad you brought up Duffy, because since we don't have kids there, they're not eligible for SFD funding. That's a tough one because it basically has to come out of M&O. We've struggled with this clothing bank over here, ever since I've been here, 3 years. So we're trying to keep the units that we have up and running as best we can, but even to bring in, if we were to do Freon in that building, just so you know, or in that area over there, it would cost $100,000 just to bring in enough power to run the AC. The contractors won't even give us a quote until we bring in that power at $100,000. So I'm kind of wondering where we get the $100,000 to put in, the power so we can even get a quote. So that's kind of the deal at Duffy, because we don't have kids there. And that's what's unfortunate about the admin side of things, is that they're not qualified. And so then that's where we have to go to M&O.
Okay. All right, board members, any other questions? All right, Mr. Maya, thank you for answering and being up there as long as you did, and thank you for the presentation, and we look forward to seeing you again next board meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, we are at future meeting dates and agenda items. Dr. Trujillo.
Yes, President Luna Rose, governing board members, we've got a little bit more of a packed meeting, so it's kind of a breather meeting for all of you. We're going to get out a little bit early, but 24th, we're going to be busy. Some of the highlighted items for those of you watching in the public, the administration will be recommending to the board medical and pharmaceutical provider for a 2-year approval. The team from Camp Cooper will be here with a special facilities naming request for one of their generous donors. Parental paid leave will be back for governing board action as a second read, and then we will be coming back with a revised cost estimate for portable Freon-based AC units for governing board action. So certainly a lot on the docket coming up at our next meeting on September 24th.
Okay. Board members, anything else? All right. Thank you so much. Everybody have a good evening.